On behalf of the Community Service Society, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone here today. We are particularly honored to have Richard Cordray, the Chief Operating Officer at the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Federal Student Aid, joining us. Rich oversees a staggering $1.6 trillion in federal student loans and manages vital financial aid programs for millions of students nationwide. We're thrilled to be collaborating with Rich and his great team at FSA to present this informative webinar about the latest student loan repayment plan, SAVE. In New York alone, there are 2.4 million individuals burdened with over $90 billion in student loan debt. The debt disproportionately impacts low-income communities, exacerbating income inequality and dissuading individuals from pursuing careers in vital sectors such as education, healthcare, and public service, crucial to everyone in this state and nation. Through our Education Debt Consumer Assistance Program, EDCAP, funded by the governor of the state of New York and the state legislature, which you'll learn about later, we aim to provide New Yorkers with the necessary information and resources to tackle this debt and unlock the benefits of higher education. Now, without further ado, I hand it over to Rich.
All right. Thank you, David, for those remarks. And again, I'm Rich Cordray, Chief Operating Officer of Federal Student Aid. Special thanks to Community Service Society of New York for hosting this event and helping bring this important information to New York residents. I also want to thank Community Service Society and New York State for their joint commitment to delivering direct services for student loan borrowers through the Education Debt Consumer Assistance Program, known as EDCAP. EDCAP's free one-on-one consumer assistance has already helped thousands of student loan borrowers across the state. And I've seen over the years what one-on-one assistance can do for people who are struggling. If you have more questions about your own loans after today's webinar, I encourage you to reach out to them. And with that, let's discuss the latest effort to make student loans more affordable, the newest repayment plan known as the Saving on a Valuable Education, or SAVE plan. As we all know, federal student aid is extremely important to deliver the benefits of higher education to more people in this country. This matters to individual students, it matters to their families, to our communities, and to our nation's future. Over the years, the federal programs to help Americans finance higher education have grown substantially, so that now more than 45 million borrowers carry some amount of student loan debt. Some of you in this meeting, and many others you know, may be paying down federal student loans, but have not yet taken advantage of our most affordable payment option. For many people, the SAVE plan may be just the option you need. At different times, the department has offered different various income-driven repayment plans. Known as IDR plans, they're designed to help ease the financial burden of federal student loans by matching payments to income. The newest IDR plan, known as the SAVE plan, launched last August, and is designed to offer the lowest monthly payment yet among all the IDR plans for most borrowers. In particular, the SAVE plan typically offers the most beneficial repayment terms for low and middle income earners, public service workers, community college graduates, and those who originally borrowed $12,000 or less in student loans, which is a lot of community college students. The SAVE plan also affords another important benefit. Those making the required payments do not have their loan balance increase from unpaid interest. This is extremely important. As long as you keep up with your monthly payments, which can be as low as $0 per month, the government covers the cost of any leftover monthly interest that your monthly payment doesn't cover. The SAVE plan thus protects borrowers from runaway interest that, as we've seen, can balloon balances far beyond the amount of loans that people originally took out. Another benefit of the SAVE plan provides early loan forgiveness for borrowers who originally took out $12,000 or less in student loans and have been in repayment for as little as 10 years. For every additional $1,000 they originally borrowed above $12,000 up to $21,000, borrowers with undergraduate loans can still receive full forgiveness after an additional year of payment. Some borrowers have already signed up for the SAVE plan and received this early forgiveness. Just last month, President Biden announced the approval of $1.2 billion in early loan forgiveness for almost 153,000 borrowers currently enrolled in the SAVE plan. Notably, the early forgiveness benefit of SAVE was originally planned to go into effect in July, but we were able to implement it early in February, months ahead of schedule, to deliver more student loan forgiveness to borrowers. We recently emailed many thousands of borrowers who could become eligible for automatic early forgiveness simply by signing up for the SAVE plan, and we expect to continue those outreach efforts. More generally, we've been aggressively promoting the SAVE plan, and those efforts are paying off. At this point, more than 7.5 million borrowers, I think it's 7.7 million now, are now enrolled in SAVE to get a lower monthly payment. In fact, more than half of those, 4.3 million, enrolled in SAVE now have qualified for a $0 monthly payment, $0 monthly payment, which is, I think we can all agree, very affordable. Moving forward, the department expects to implement the remaining benefits of the SAVE plan in July, which will further reduce monthly payments from 10% of a borrower's discretionary income to just 5% for those with undergraduate loans, among other benefits. Borrowers who meet the eligibility forgiveness for criteria under the SAVE plan will have their loans automatically forgiven with no action needed on their part, and the department will continue to identify and discharge the loans on a regular basis. Additionally, if a borrower applies for an IDR plan, including SAVE, on studentaid.gov and agrees to securely share their tax information, then their IDR plan will automatically be recertified year to year the next time recertification is due. Given these important features, if you're a federal student loan borrower, check out the SAVE plan at studentaid.gov/save. That's studentaid.gov/save. And consider signing up immediately. To our state partners, advocacy organizations, and other stakeholders, help us spread the word far and wide about how many borrowers can get more affordable monthly payments and loan forgiveness through the SAVE plan. The Biden-Harris administration is sending a resounding message to borrowers. Federal student loans should enable you to achieve your educational dreams, not become a burden. And the SAVE plan reaffirms that priority. We will now hear from Rachel Gittleman of the FSA Ombudsman Office to learn more about the SAVE plan. Thank you. Rachel?
Thank you so much, Chief Cordray. I'm going to give it 1 second for our PowerPoint presentation. Awesome. Welcome everyone to our All About SAVE webinar. First off, I'd like to echo Mr. Cordray's thanks to our partners, Community Service Society and the Education Debt Consumer Assistance Program. Now, Mr. Cordray talked all about the amazing benefits of the SAVE program, and we are going to dive into even more details about it today. As he mentioned, my name is Rachel Gittleman, and I work at on the Stakeholder Engagement Group in the Ombudsman's Office for Federal Student Aid. I'm really excited to be here today to tell you about the department's most affordable repayment plan yet, and how enrolling in SAVE can help lead to forgiveness. Next slide, please. So we're just going to reiterate a few logistical reminders before we start. You won't be able to unmute or turn on your camera, so please use the Q&A function to post questions during the webinar. We have colleagues from our Ombudsman's Office and from EdCap here to answer those questions, and then we'll also be doing some question and answer at the end of the webinar as well. The webinar is also equipped with closed captions, which you can access via the meeting controls toolbar, and we will be recording the webinar. That's it, so next slide. Okay, we have a lot to go over today. So today we are going to begin with just a student loan overview, followed by information about our newest and most affordable income-driven repayment plan, Saving on a Valuable Education, or SAVE. We're also going to discuss ways the administration is making it easier to reach forgiveness through the one-time payment count adjustment and public service loan forgiveness programs. And finally, if you have loans in default, you can still access SAVE through a great one-time program called Fresh Start, and we'll discuss that at the very end of today's presentation. Next slide. Okay, so first we're going to go over the major types of federal student loans. Most student loan borrowers have direct loans. These loans are made directly by the Department of Education and are serviced by one of 4 contracted companies: Advantage, Ed Financial, NowNet, and Mohila. There are a few different types of direct loans. You can have just direct undergrad, direct graduate, Parent Plus, and direct consolidation loans, to name a few. There are also older loans called Federal Family Education Loans, or FFEL loans. These loans were made before 2010 and were originated by banks or other financial institutions and then insured by the Department of Education. Today, some of these loans are now owned by the department and some are still held by commercial entities. Finally, we have what's called Perkins loans, which are loans made by colleges to students with exceptional financial need. Although the Perkins loan program ended in 2017, lots of borrowers still have those Perkins loans, and the department owns some of the loans now. The main thing to remember from this slide is that FFEL and Perkins loans can be consolidated into a new direct consolidation loan to gain access to SAVE and other forgiveness programs. And we're going to get into how and when to do that later on. But to find out what type of loan you have, you can check your studentaid.gov dashboard and sign in with your FSA ID, or you can call 1-800-4FED-AID, and one of our agents will be able to help you discern what loans you have. Next slide. So, as Chief Cordray mentioned, the Biden administration has approved an astounding amount of student loan forgiveness. We have approved almost 138 billion, that's billion with a B, in student loan forgiveness for nearly 3.9 million borrowers. And actually, these numbers were as of a few weeks ago, and we just announced another 5.8 billion in student loan debt relief for 78,000 public service workers. So we need to add a couple to our numbers here, but this is the most recent update in addition to that number I just gave you. So many borrowers have received forgiveness due to a total and permanent disability. Borrowers who were cheated by their schools or saw their schools closed or were covered by related court settlements have also received forgiveness. And finally, the most recent cancellations are due to fixes to the income-driven repayment plans, improvements to the public service loan forgiveness, and added benefits under the SAVE plan, like Chief Cordray mentioned. And we're going to dig into all 3 of these forgiveness programs in today's webinar, so I'm so excited to discuss each of those with you. Next slide. So, speaking of income-driven repayment plans, when a borrower first enters into repayment, either after going to school or, if you consolidate into that direct consolidation loan, you're automatically placed on a standard repayment plan, which allows for fixed payments made up to 10 years, or between 10 and 30 years for consolidation loans. Now, for most borrowers, an income-driven repayment plan, or an IDR plan, is going to be the cheaper option, since IDR plans calculate monthly payment based on income and family size. Plus, when you're on an IDR plan, you'll be eligible for forgiveness after 20 or 25 years, depending on the type of loan you have. There are multiple types of IDR plans: saving on a valuable education, or SAVE, pay as you earn or pay, income-based repayment, or IBR, and income contingent repayment, or ICR. Now, for most borrowers, SAVE will be the most affordable option, but we're going to walk through our loan simulator later, which allows you to compare all options to choose the plan that works best for your financial situation. Next slide, please. Okay, so we are now going to dig into the details about SAVE. The SAVE plan replaced a plan called Revised Pay As You Earn, or REPAY. So borrowers who were previously enrolled on REPAY were automatically added to the SAVE plan and are receiving the benefits of the new SAVE plan. No further action is needed on your part if you were on REPAY. If you were not on REPAY, or if you were on another income-driven repayment plan or a standard plan, you will need to apply for SAVE, but we'll get into how to apply later on in the presentation. The SAVE plan, like other IDR plans, calculates monthly payment based on income and family size rather than just a fixed amount based on the loan balance. It also typically offers lower monthly payments compared to other IDR plans, and that's because we're protecting a higher amount of your income. We're exempting a higher amount of your income. So the SAVE plan increases the income exemption from 150% to 225% of the poverty line. And we're going to get into a borrower example in a little bit so that you can see actually how that breaks down in real-time payments. Now, you must have direct loans to enroll in SAVE. Parent Plus, Fell, and Perkins loans are not eligible for SAVE, unfortunately, but we're going to talk about consolidation later, which can allow borrowers to access SAVE. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are so many benefits to the new SAVE plan, like Chief Cordray mentioned. We're going to run through those now. For most borrowers, SAVE is going to be the most affordable repayment plan, and many borrowers may even be able to have a monthly payment as low as $0. In addition, the SAVE plan eliminates 100% of remaining monthly interest after you make a full scheduled payment, even if that payment is $0. What this means is if you make your monthly payment, your loan balance will not go up due to unpaid interest that accrued since your last payment. So as an example, if $50 in interest accumulates on your loans each month, and the expected monthly payment is $30, the remaining $20 will be covered by the government. Next slide. But wait, there are even more benefits to SAVE. When borrowers switch from a different IDR plan to the SAVE plan, interest on loans won't be added to the principal balance unless you are switching from the income-based repayment plan. Also, for spouses who are filing taxes separately, that spousal income is excluded for borrowers. And that removes the need for spouses to co-sign an IDR application. And finally, there are even more benefits in the works. So stay tuned for additional changes to the SAVE plan later this year. As of right now, there are 7.5 million borrowers enrolled in SAVE. And of those, 4.3 million have a $0 payment. So really the SAVE plan is one of the most affordable repayment plans for low and middle income borrowers and puts many borrowers on a path to earlier forgiveness, which we're going to get into now. Next slide. So, like I mentioned, if you are enrolled in the SAVE plan, your loans might be eligible for forgiveness after as few as 10 years of monthly payments rather than 20 or 25 years. Your eligibility for this shortened repayment term depends on how much you originally borrowed for school. So this is why it's so important to enroll in SAVE, because you may be able to reach forgiveness so much earlier when enrolled in SAVE, but it does require action on your part. Next slide. Okay, so these charts illustrate how borrowers with lower balances who are enrolled in SAVE can reach forgiveness earlier. The chart on the left shows the forgiveness timeline for borrowers with graduate loans or a mix of grad and undergrad loans, while the chart on the right shows the timeline for borrowers with undergraduate only loans. So for those borrowers who borrowed less than $12,000 initially, you will reach forgiveness in just 10 years when you enroll in SAVE. And then we add an additional year for each additional $1,000 that was borrowed. And this has already meant early forgiveness for so many borrowers so far. Next slide. In New York alone, more than 8,000 borrowers have received $63.4 million in forgiveness so far through SAVE early cancellation. Next slide. Okay, so before we get into how to apply, we're going to answer I know we're getting some really great questions in the Q&A, but we're also going to answer some common questions that we get all of the time. So first, if a borrower enrolls in the SAVE plan, will they still qualify for PSLF after 10 years? Now, PSLF is Public Service Loan Forgiveness, and if you don't know what that acronym means, don't worry, we're going to get into it later on in the presentation. But the answer to this is yes. Qualifying repayment plans for Public Service Loan Forgiveness include all IDR plans, including the SAVE plan. The second question we get all the time is interest eliminated for all types of subsidized and unsubsidized loans, including graduate school subsidized loans? And the answer is largely yes. Technically, the interest isn't eliminated. The government actually covers the interest, but the government covers any remaining interest for that month, regardless of the type of loan, as long as that loan is enrolled in SAVE, and as long as the borrower is making their scheduled monthly payment, even if that monthly payment is $0. And finally, is there an income cap on the new SAVE plan? Anyone can apply to the SAVE plan, regardless of income. But since the monthly payment is calculated based on income and family size, a monthly payment on SAVE for borrowers with a higher income could end up being more than a 10-year standard repayment plan. So we're going to talk about the loan simulator next, and that's a way to compare the plans. So next slide. Okay. We can go back one slide, I think, actually. Oh, no, next slide. Sorry. Okay. So as we discussed earlier, SAVE will be the most affordable option for most borrowers. We recommend using something called the loan simulator to compare all options and choose the plan that works best for your financial situation. And I'm hoping one of my colleagues has pasted that link in the chat so that you can look. Now, the loan simulator you just access via studentaid.gov, and you use your FSA ID to compare those loan types. Once you've determined which plan works best for you, you can apply for the IDR plan directly at studentaid.gov, and that's what's shown here on this slide. When you apply online, we have a new SAVE application, which allows you to provide approval for secure disclosure of tax information so that we can automatically access your latest IRS tax return. Now, that's a lot of big words, but basically what it means is we can communicate with the IRS to pull over your income and family size so that you don't have to manually provide that for your initial application and for yearly recertification. So for income-driven repayment plans, you have to recertify your income every year. But with this new secure disclosure of tax information, we'll do that automatically for you, and then you don't have to remember to recertify every year and provide that information every year. Now, for borrowers who were who were on repay historically, or who did not provide approval for the IRS disclosure, you will need to recertify your income on a yearly basis. The department recently extended those recertification dates until November 1st, 2024. But at that point, your servicer will reach out to you to remind you of your recertification deadline, and you'll have to log into studentaid.gov to recertify your income. Now, when you go to recertify your income, you can provide that approval so that you don't need to do it in the future. So whether you're recertifying your income or applying to SAVE for the first time, you will need to log into your studentaid.gov account to access the application. Next slide, please. Oh, here's the loan simulator. Sorry, our slides were a little bit out of order today. So like I mentioned earlier, the loan simulator is a great tool to be able to compare all different repayment plans. I know we've named a bunch of different repayment plans here in today's webinar, but rest assured, you can just log into the loan simulator, and if you use your FSA ID, it'll actually pull in all of your loan information and then compare. It allows you to compare the monthly payments and the payoff dates for all of the different repayment options, so that then you can choose the option that works best for your financial situation. And I know my colleagues have been posting links in the chat for both the loan simulator and the IDR application. So one of the big takeaways from today's webinar is check the loan simulator to compare which repayment plan is best for you. And then if SAVE is the most affordable repayment plan for you, which most likely it will be, enroll in SAVE using that IDR application. Next slide, please. And here are the links to the IDR applications. And then the last link is to kind of a video recap of the benefits of the SAVE plan that we talked about today. Next slide, please. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about the payment count adjustment, which is a one-time program happening right now that helps borrowers maximize their time towards forgiveness. So under the this one-time revision, borrowers will gain credit for certain past periods of repayment, forbearance, and deferment that would otherwise not qualify for income-driven repayment forgiveness or for public service loan forgiveness. So as a reminder, borrowers enrolled in IDR plans get forgiveness after 20 or 25 years. If you're enrolled in SAVE, that's even earlier if you had a lower balance to start with. And then public service loan forgiveness, which we're going to get into later, is forgiveness after 120 qualifying payments or around 10 years. So what we're doing under this one-time revision is we're basically going to recount all of your past histories, your past repayment history, to be able to maximize that credit towards all of these forgiveness programs. And this change applies to all borrowers with Ed-held loans, including borrowers in default and Parent Plus borrowers. So this is a really important takeaway. If you do not have Department of Education held loans, so commercially held FFEL loans, Perkins loans, HEAL loans, we're going to get into other types of loans that may not qualify, you can consolidate into the direct loan program by April 30th, 2024, so next month, to benefit from the adjustment. And we're going to get into the consolidation application shortly, but April 30th, 2024 is when you need to submit that consolidation application by. Next slide, please. Okay, so this goes into a little bit more details about this payment count adjustment. So basically, we're going to recount borrower past repayment history to maximize your time towards forgiveness. What this means is we're going to count any months in repayment status, regardless of the payments made, the loan type, or the repayment plan. We're also going to count any repayment prior to consolidation on consolidated loans. And then we're going to count certain forbearances and deferments, which we'll get into on the next slide. And then for those borrowers with loans that have accumulated time in repayment of at least 20 or 25 years, you'll see automatic forgiveness depending on the loan type, even if you're not currently enrolled in an IDR plan. Now, for those borrowers who maybe reach 15 years or 20 or 19 years, but not all the way to that automatic forgiveness, after we do that recount, you will need to enroll in an IDR plan to keep accruing time towards IDR forgiveness. Now, borrowers who have commercially managed FFEL loans, Perkins loans, health education assistance or HEAL loans, or other non-direct loans need to apply for a direct consolidation loan by April 30th, 2024, that's that date again, to get the full benefits of the one-time payment count adjustment. And again, we're going to get into that in a little bit. And then borrowers who made qualifying payments on direct loans that exceed forgiveness thresholds will receive a refund for overpayment. Next slide. Okay, so here we're going to recount all repayment history, as I mentioned, and then we're going to also recount or count some deferments and forbearances towards repayment. So any long-term forbearances, which is either 12 months consecutively or 36 months cumulatively, and then all deferments prior to 2013, except for in-school deferments, all economic hardship deferments, which important to note that that's different than unemployment deferments. And then we'll also count military-related forbearances and deferments, and we'll count all of those towards repayment. So you'll get credit for those periods in deferment and forbearances. And then after this automatic recount is done, we'll announce a process to count some of those short-term forbearances that don't accumulate to that 12-month consecutively or 36-month cumulatively. So more to come on that soon. Next slide, please. Okay, so for borrowers with Perkins, commercially held FFEL loans, health program loans, anything that is non-Department of Education held, borrowers must consolidate before April 30th to gain access to the payment count adjustment, all of these benefits that we just mentioned. Consolidating also actually gets you, allows you to gain access to the SAVE repayment plan that we mentioned earlier, and then other forgiveness opportunities. So it's really a good opportunity for you all around. But even borrowers with only direct loans may also want to consolidate. So under this payment count adjustment, if you consolidate all of your loans into one loan, we're going to put all of your loans on the most advantageous timeline. So I'm going to give you an example of this. If you took out loans for undergrad, for example, and then a couple years later you went back to school for graduate school, consolidating all of those loans together would put all of those loans on the earlier timeline towards forgiveness. And same thing for Parent Plus loans and undergrad loans. So if you took out loans for your own school and then you took out loans for a child, consolidating all of those loans together would put all of those loans on the earlier timeline of your own undergrad loans. So in order to gain access to the payment count adjustment for those non-department held loans, and then to put all of your loans on the same timeline, you're going to need to submit a consolidation application by April 30th, 2024. April 30th, 2024, next month. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are a few things you should know about consolidating. Your principal balance might go up because when you consolidate, your outstanding interest gets added to your principal. But if we're consolidating to gain access to forgiveness sooner, this really shouldn't make a difference in the long term. Likewise, your consolidation loan will have a new interest rate, and the rate could be lower or higher for some loans. But if you consolidate before April 30th, 2024, you will not lose credit towards IDR and PSLF forgiveness. It's important to note that when you first submit that consolidation application, you'll see your counts go down to 0, but this is just a momentary, it takes a little while for our systems to get to apply that count. So don't fret, it's normal. And, in short order, you will see those counts reestablished on your account. And then consolidation process takes around 60 to 90 days. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. This is a forgiveness program for those borrowers who work in public service. Borrowers work with 120 qualifying payments or 10 years on direct loans while working for a qualifying employer and who have applied for the program can see their loans forgiven. So it's 4 different to-do items that you have to meet to get that PSLF forgiveness. And don't worry, we're going to get into what each of these 4 checklist items mean now. Next slide, please. Okay, so first, to gain access to PSLF, you have to have a qualifying loan type, which includes all direct loans, including consolidation and Parent Plus loans. Those FEL program loans and those Perkins loans, again, do not qualify for PSLF, but if you consolidate into a direct loan before April 30th, 2024, you'll get credit for all of that past qualifying employment on those new consolidation loans. Important thing to note about Parent Plus loans is that the borrower who took out the loan is the borrower that's eligible for PSLF. So it's the parent and not the student for those Parent Plus loans. Okay, next slide. Next, you must work for a qualifying employer. And this means working full-time, which is 30 hours a week or more, for any government or nonprofit entity. There are some limited exceptions, but the following employments generally do not qualify. Part-time work that does not add up to full-time, although I should note that if you have multiple part-time jobs that add up to 30 hours a week or more, that qualifies. Volunteer work doesn't qualify. For-profit entities, labor unions, and contractors do not qualify. Now, one other important thing to note is that this doesn't need to be consecutive. So let's say you work for a qualifying employer for 4 years, and then you take a few years off and go back for an additional 6 years. That does still qualify for PSLF. Next slide, please. Okay. Finally, borrowers must be on one of the following repayment plans to qualify. So you can be on a standard plan, any income-driven repayment plan like the SAFE plan we mentioned earlier, and then certain periods of forbearance and deferment qualify. Now, it's important to note that because it's a 10-year forgiveness program, it is definitely more advantageous for borrowers who are applying for PSLF to be on an IDR plan rather than that standard 10-year repayment plan. Unfortunately, borrowers who enroll in graduate, extended, or alternative plans, those plans do not qualify for PSLF. Okay, next slide. So you can apply online for PSLF with a new simplified form. You can simply log on with your FSA ID, and the new form allows for digital signature. It's really important to certify your employment yearly to make sure your qualifying monthly payment count remains up to date. Yeah, so that's PSLF in a nutshell. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's say you have loans in default. You can still access SAVE through another great one-time program under the Biden administration. So next slide, please. So Fresh Start is a one-time program to help defaulted borrowers. It's a temporary program, as I mentioned, that offers every federal student loan borrower a path out of default and back into those forgiveness and SAVE programs that we've talked about here today. It provides some automatic benefits, but like the other programs we've mentioned here today, borrowers must act to claim the full benefits of Fresh Start and get out of default. And we're going to talk about how just in a minute. Borrowers who Fresh Start their loans will see restored access to federal aid and eligibility for other government loans. Collections on those loans will also stop, which leads to credit report changes. And then Fresh Start also preserves the date of first delinquency, which means that whenever your loans first went into delinquency is the date that will remain that date on your credit report. And those defaulted loans get wiped off after 7 years. So if your loans have been in default for 7 or more years, it means that that default will be wiped off of your credit report. And then Fresh Start also allows borrowers to gain access to IDR plans, including SAVE and loan forgiveness programs, and then also short-term relief options like forbearances and deferments. Next slide. Okay, so there are multiple ways to sign up for Fresh Start. You can sign up via phone, phone, online, or by mail, but borrowers must take advantage before September 30th, 2024. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we're going to get into the contact information in just a minute, but I wanted to give a quick checklist of the things that you should take away from this webinar. I know we've talked about so much information. Really, here are the main takeaways. First, use the loan simulator to figure out what repayment plan is the most beneficial for you. Most likely, it's going to be that SAVE IDR plan. Then you should apply to SAVE. And you should check to see if you have non-department held loans or if you have loans on different timelines, and you should submit a consolidation application by April 30th, 2024. If you have any questions about anything that we've mentioned here today, we're going to give you few different ways to contact us. So next slide, please. Okay, first, you should always start with studentaid.gov. There's a wealth of information there. But also, if you have specific questions about your loans, you can email our team at FSA Stakeholder Engagement, or, next slide, please. You can email EdCap. And this is actually, I should have started with EdCap's information. So we work very closely with EdCap. And as Chief Cordray mentioned at the very beginning, they are so amazing and help borrowers one-on-one with any student loan problem that they have. So here is their email and website and helpline. And we really encourage you, if you have any issues with student loans, to get in contact with them, and they're going to be able to walk you through what you need to do. So I'm now going to turn it over to Carolina Rodriguez, who is the director of the Education Debt Consumer Assistance Program, and Bonnie Luttrell, who is Federal Student Aid's Ombudsman, and they are going to answer some questions.
Thank you, Rachel, so much. That is a lot of information, but I really love the summary and takeaways. I think we can easily get overwhelmed in terms of next steps. And I just want to encourage everyone to reach out and use the resources available. We're very fortunate in New York State to be able to have a program like EdCap that offers you that one-on-one assistance that oftentimes borrowers need. I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie to see if there's any questions based on the Q&A that you would like to elevate, highlight, or make any other points that you feel borrowers should know.
So I think most of the questions have gotten answers, and they did seem pretty specific to, it sounds like, either a person's personal situation, or I know we have some legal aid folks on, maybe one of their clients. So I think we can go ahead and open it up to some general questions. I do see an open question about when will we start using the 2024 poverty guidelines for the IDR calculations. That will happen July 1st.
Thank you. So I guess we do have a hand raised. So are we okay? Yeah. I think Marie, I'm going to unmute you. Do you have a question? Maria Beck.
Hi, Carolina. I'm so sorry. I did not have a question.
Okay, not a problem. I think there was another question outstanding, and that is for borrowers who may be pursuing borrower defense to repayment, which is a program for individuals that went to a school that defrauded them. There's always that uncertainty on what to do, whether to take advantage of the forbearance offered through borrower defense to repayment or into a repayment plan like SAVE. The question is, does time spent on a forbearance, if you're pursuing borrower defense or repayment, count towards any of the forgiveness programs?
It does not, but one thing to keep in mind with doing that is that under borrower defense, as long as you have direct loans, you will get a refund of those payments made. So if you think, if you want to continue dual tracking, I know borrowed heads can take a long time to get a decision. If you want to continue accruing credit towards other forgiveness options to keep your options open at the end of the day, you can opt out of the borrower defense forbearance, keep making those payments, and know that if your borrower defense application is not approved, you're still on track for those loan forgiveness options. But if it is approved, you'll get a refund of any payments made.
Another common question is, do I have to be on an income-driven repayment plan to benefit from the IDR account adjustment?
You do not. That's the best part of it, is that the account, and that's why it changed from IDR account adjustment to payment account adjustment, because it is giving you credit for all of the time you've spent in other repayment plans. If the account adjustment is not going to get you over the finish line for loan forgiveness, the best thing you can do is get on track by getting into an IDR plan today, moving forward. So you continue to accrue that credit. So use the SAVE plan moving forward, and then use the payment count adjustment to get you all the credit looking backward.
Someone related to that, and I know we hear clients say this a lot, is there's a fear of consolidation. And I think especially for borrowers with older loans that were told do not consolidate, there's nothing good for you. Can you talk about what happens if people consolidate by April 30th?
Yeah, so I know that there can be a lot of fear around consolidation, but there really has never been a better time to consolidate. Rachel talked a bit about interest rates. The way consolidation loans work is you get the weighted average of your interest on the underlying loans rounded up to the nearest 1/8%. So you're not going to see a staggering shift based on market rates. It's not like refinancing. Consolidation is rolling up your underlying ones into a new one and getting the average interest rate there. The other thing to remember is that it used to be the case that if you consolidated and you would lose any credit you had accrued towards IDR forgiveness, towards public service loan forgiveness. This is exactly what the payment count adjustment is intended to fix. So if you consolidate before the end of April, you're going to preserve all of that credit. So you'll leave off right where you you'll start right where you left off before. You'll keep all that credit, and you'll have this new loan that'll get you on track to take advantage of all of these other programs we talked about today. One note is that right after you do consolidate, you might get a notification that says you have 0 qualifying payments or you have 0 credit towards income-driven repayment. Those messages are auto-generated, and they're actually shockingly hard to turn off. But because those are auto-generated, all that means is we haven't yet updated the system to reflect all of your underlying payments. What we do is we process the consolidation, and then we come in and apply all your previous credits to your account. And then that letter often goes out before we can do that second step. So don't worry, don't be alarmed if you see that the payment credits are coming. It just takes us a minute.
Someone related, given that we're in the topic of consolidation, someone is saying, I'm enrolled in SAVE, but my loans have not been consolidated. They're currently on the FSA website and they may want to consolidate, multitask, love it. How would they go about that and ensure that they're, again, back in SAVE if they decide to consolidate?
Yeah, so the great thing about consolidating on studentaid.gov is that the online consolidation application actually includes an income-driven repayment application at the end of it. So you'll spend the first couple parts of the application getting the consolidation in place. And then before you hit submit, it's going to pivot into the IDR application and say, what are your payment goals? Are you trying to make payments based on income? Are you trying to pay this off as quickly as possible? If you do it based on income, it'll guide you through the process to enroll and save. So you're just talking like one-stop shop to get everything done. So your first payment on your new consolidation loan is still going to be in save.
Another common misconception for people who might not be working, they're unemployed, is like, well, I'm going to take a forbearance, or I'm just not going to pay. I don't have any money. Can you talk about the benefits of a plan like SAVE and what they should do instead of like hiding or not addressing their student loans?
Yeah, the amazing thing about all of the income-driven repayment plans, but particularly SAVE, is that you can be eligible for a $0 payment. And I know that's a bit of a confusing concept, because $0 payment doesn't, it is no payment. But what I mean by that is that your loans will still be in repayment status. They're going to be in good standing. Your credit report will reflect in good standing, and you're going to continue to accrue credit towards loan forgiveness. But your payment without having to make a monthly payment. And if you lose your job, if your income suddenly drops, you can actually change your payment amount right then and there. And if you're unemployed, or if you have no taxable income, that's going to get you that $0 payment. If you make $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year, you're still looking at a $0 payment, because anything under the threshold in the formula will get you a $0 payment, and then it's prorated above that. So to Carolina's question, if you lose your job, don't hide from your loans. Don't get into forbearance. Just adjust your payment. You can call your servicer, or you can go online. There's actually a box that says, this, my income has recently changed, or this doesn't reflect my current financial situation, and we'll get that new payment calculated for you.
Great. And there is a hand up. I'm gonna call on the hand up next. There's also a common question from higher earners, quote unquote higher earners. Cost of living is really high. People are still struggling despite their taxes appearing as like high earners. And there's always a concern about switching over from like an extended repayment plan, for example, to SAVE, because it may be right now cost prohibitive. Can you talk a little bit about the repayment plan options that anyone has and potential impact if you go from SAVE? Can you go back to your extended plan, or you can stay on your extended plan and then eventually make a judgment call to go back on SAVE? Can you talk about that?
Sure. And let me start off by saying that this is where the loan simulator or the repayment estimator is really, really helpful, because if you go in, you can actually import your actual loan information as long as you have an account set up on studentaid.gov. And it'll offer you the different repayment options for your loans. I also would love to give a shout out to EdCap's own calculator. They have a great, really easy to use, quick calculator that lets you see what your options are. So now with that plug being done, there are multiple types of what we call alternative repayment options. So there's the standard plan, which is the default plan when you first enter repayment. This is, I'm going to pay off my loan in 10 years. The payment's going to be the same every month. That doesn't work for most people. There are two major alternative repayment plans. One is called extended and one is called graduated. Extended repayment lets you pay the same amount every month over a longer period of time. So instead of 10 years, you're looking at 20, 25, 30 years. So you'll end up paying more interest over time, but it does make the payment more manageable. This is often the lowest payment you can get across any of the plans. And it's not income specific. It's open to everybody. And you just have to call your servicer to enroll in that. The other alternative repayment plan that's not income specific is graduated repayment. Under graduated repayment, your payments start really low at the beginning and then they increase every 2 years. So I call this often the doctor plan. So like when you're an intern and a resident, your payments are lower and more manageable. And then as you're earning more and more later, your payments will go up. Again, you're going to pay more interest over time. In general, because again, you're paying more interest, they don't have a lot of the protections that income-driven repayment has. I do recommend income-driven repayment, but I completely understand that for people who are high earners, people who live in high cost of living areas, sometimes IDR isn't affordable. If you previously thought IDR was not affordable, I encourage you to take a look at the SAVE plan. They changed the formula, more income is protected, payments are going to be lower. So you might find that it is really the most affordable plan we've ever seen. And so people who may not have benefited from income-based repayment, pay as you earn, will find that that the SAVE plan does work for them. But if that's not the case, you continue to have the option to enroll in extended repayment. Keep in mind though, that while the payment count adjustment will give you retroactive credit towards any of the loan forgiveness options, it won't give you credit moving forward. And so if you're not going to get over the finish line, you might decide that the trade-off is better with SAVE because it will get you on the path to loan forgiveness.
Thank you, Bonnie. So there is one hand up and we have 5 minutes left, so we'll take that question, I'm sorry. Wendell, I'm gonna unmute you.
Hey, thank you so much. My question is because I'm under SAVE also, and I am under the PSLF also, but some of my loans aren't consolidated. I don't know how on the PSLF, because I'm checking it right now as you speak, because I was like, let me check it also. So when I was trying to consolidate everything, it's only giving me 2 options to do so, while everything else is under PSLF. So I just want to know exactly what should my next steps be, because I don't want to get thrown out of the PSLF or the SAVE program, because not everything is under, which is amazing, on the PSLF. So yeah, that was my question.
Okay, so what it sounds like to me, this might be a question that you want to reach out either to AdCap or to my team directly, so we can take a look at your account. But what it sounds like to me is that you have a mix of FEL and direct loans.
Right.
Yeah, and so you're getting notified that only your direct loans are counting towards PSLF, and you need to consolidate the FEL. What you can do though is if you consolidate, you can consolidate all of them together, and as long as you do so, if it sounds like you're in there right now, if you do so today, you'll get all of the benefits that we talked about, right, payment count adjustment, everything across all of your loans. So it's the best of both worlds. You'll get all of your loans will then count for PSLF, and you'll get the time in repayment from your FEL loans. That's going to carry across to this new loan. So don't, if it's telling you you just need to consolidate some to get on track for PSLF, right, move past that. Go ahead and include everything. You're not going to lose any credit. So include everything, and then send the consolidation application in. And what you'll find is that now all of your loans are on the same schedule, and they're all getting the maximum amount of credit available.
Great, thank you. That's why I was kind of scared checking them off because they have the qualifying PSL payments that are made for everything else.
You're gonna, yeah, that don't worry about it. You will keep that credit. It's gonna include a disclaimer that says, you know, if you consolidate, you might lose your credit. That doesn't account for the payment count adjustment. You are not going to lose your PSLF credit if you consolidate. So consolidate everything together.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I'm gonna say, if you need help, please reach out. That's something that we at EdCap do. And we always say we cannot properly advise someone until we see what type of loans their status is. So we're happy to help. I think now is the time, if there was a time to consolidate and make sure you have direct loans and get all your loans on track for forgiveness, do it before April 30th. I'm gonna stop there. I wanna thank FSA, Bonnie, Rachel, team, Chief Cordray for their collaboration and partnership today, and not only today, for really everything that they have been doing to make sure borrowers get relief. We all know how essential it is to eliminate this debt in order for people to truly attain the benefits of obtaining a higher education. And we appreciate all of you and all the hard work that you have been doing, especially behind the scenes, to make this happen. Again, a final pitch for EdCap. If you need one-on-one assistance, we're here to help you. We are New York State funded, and all of our services are free. Bonnie, any closing remarks, or anyone else from your team?
Just I would reiterate that, and you heard it from Rich Cordray at the beginning. EdCap provides a fantastic service, and I can certainly vouch for the amazing help that they give. And they have really solved some tough problems for borrowers. So if you do have questions, I encourage you all to reach out.
Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Take care.